Hi guys, it's Stuart here from SD Roberts Plastering and Wall Insulation. Today I'm going to walk you through a project that we're working on in Atherstone. So let's spin you around and I'll show you what we're up to. Okay, so this is the room that we're working on, guys. We're installing a 50mm thermal laminate board, which is this stuff here. So we've got 50mm of PIR insulation with the plasterboard attached. This will significantly increase the thermal resistance of these 9-inch solid walls, and also the ceiling, which has no insulation in, guys, at all. So this room was particularly cold. 3 sides here, all external. Again, 9-inch solid walls and no insulation in the ceiling. The customer called us, that was the main concern. The room was cold, radiators turned up to maximum, pumping away, still not heating up the room. So what are some of the benefits of internal wall insulation? So the obvious benefit, guys, is that it's going to make your room a lot warmer. Once this room is fully insulated, less heat is going to be used to heat the room up. So the radiators will be turned right down. It also reduces the risk of condensation, black spot mold. It's going to be quieter, more comfortable, more cozy. To demonstrate how effective this insulation is, guys, I've just insulated this wall here. Okay, and as you can see, the wall on the left here, we're yet to complete this panel on the left. So this spot here is now a cold spot. So using my thermal imaging camera, let's see the difference. So this image, guys, shows the glazing on the windows as blue and the insulated walls are showing up as orange. But as we move across to the area that it's not been insulated, as you can see there, it's clearly showing up in blue as a cold bridge. Now, there are some questions that we often get asked around internal wall insulation, so I'm hoping I can answer some of those questions in this video today for you. So one of the questions is what happens with radiators when we install internal wall insulation. The plumber has actually removed the radiator and he's extended the tails, which are these pipes here. I've just popped an off-cut plasterboard in here, guys, just to support the pipe while we're working on the walls. So he's had to extend these pipes to allow for the additional thickness of the insulation. So that needs to be done before we come in. Radiators removed and pipe work extended. Once we've installed the internal wall insulation, the plumber can then return, hang the radiators back on and fit the valves on. Now, another question we get asked about is reveals, window reveals. Window reveals are notorious for damp and black spot mold. So it's really important that we insulate the window reveals with an insulation product. You can see here I've lined the window reveals using a 6mm slimline insulation board, which is this stuff here. What we do is we clad the existing reveal with the 6mm insulation, which allows us to keep the margin around the window so we're not losing too much margin, and that comes across and it covers the insulation on the face. Once it's been insulated, guys, we'll trim away any excess adhesive and sealant, and we'll install a corner bead before plastering. Another question that we get asked is about the electrics. So just like the plumbing, any electrical points, light switches, power points, they need to be extended to allow for the thickness of the insulation. The electrician's come in before us and he's extended all the power outlets, and he's put some little caps on there, allowing us to do our installation. We can make a rough hole here, pull his cables through, get all the plastering done. The electrician will then return, and using a multi-tool, you can cut out a neat square here and pop in a plastic back box for the new fittings. So that's how the electrics are dealt with. Another question is window boards. Essentially what we do is we remove the ball nose on the existing window boards. We'll line this with a 6mm insulation board, and then we'll cap the entire thing typically with a UPVC window board, which is deeper, which covers the insulation. We can install timber softwood window boards or MDF window boards if you prefer, but typically we would use a UPVC window board to match the windows that are in place. So another question is, how much floor space are we going to lose when we install internal wall insulation? So that will all depend on the thickness of the insulation that you go for, and of course the thicker the insulation, the more effective, the more thermally effective it's going to be. So again, this is a 50mm. So once plastered and with the skirting boards back on, the maximum floor space that we've lost on this room is around about 3 inches all round. Now that's not an issue when you've got a large space like this, but if you've got a child's box bedroom and the bed may be quite tight, then it's important that you do measure to make sure that the insulation isn't going to cause problems when it comes to putting the furniture back in the room, things like that. Now sometimes we can remove the existing plaster and install the insulation back to the brick. In this case we haven't done that, guys, because as you can see, back in the 70s these walls were battened and plasterboarded, but there's absolutely no insulation inside at all. So we've overboarded this room and we've fixed into the existing battens, but to gain that little bit more floor space back, you could remove the existing plaster and consider dropping down to a 25mm insulation, for example. Now the good thing about installing insulation from the inside as opposed to having external wall insulation is that you can tackle one room or one wall at a time. Typically we would focus on rooms where the customer would be spending most of the time, for example master bedrooms, lounges. We don't tend to insulate hallways or bathrooms, for example, because we can always turn the radiators off in those areas, save money that way. If you have external wall insulation, typically you'll have to pay for the entire property to be insulated rather than just tackle one space or one room at a time. You can also, of course, pay as you go, work room to room. So sometimes it works out a lot better financially for the customer. Now I have done videos on plastering over the internal wall insulation, which if you scroll through you can see some of those. But once plastered and painted, you won't know that the room has been insulated, apart from, of course, you can tap the wall and hear that it's a plasterboard wall and not a solid wall. So another concern that we have, guys, is fixing into the wall once it's been insulated. So there's a couple of options there. You can use what are called ball fixings, which are quite strong plasterboard fixings. If you've got something quite substantial like a radiator bracket or a heavy mirror, for example, you could use the ball fixings. You could also screw straight through the insulation into the brick. So I hope this video has been helpful in answering some of your questions around internal wall insulation. If you live in the Warwickshire area and you're considering having your home insulated, hit the link below and we shall be in touch to arrange your free survey. Thank you very much.